I would much rather be a little underwater, just a little bit underwater, than sitting there on dry land going, when's it going to rain?
Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast, where business owners learn to scale their profits and cash flow and work less doing it. You built your business to fulfill your dreams and serve your mission. You're the backbone of America, creating the jobs and opportunities that keep our economy moving. And for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. We're Profit First certified. It's the first baby step in a journey we take our clients on, building cash-rich, margin-strong businesses that don't suck the life out of you. Check out the first 13 episodes of the podcast. It's Mike Michalowicz and my review of each chapter of the Profit First book. Around here, we speak cash flow, profit, and practical execution. No accounting jargon, no fluff. Most accountants, they might help you save on taxes, but they'll crush your cash flow and make you look unprofitable. That's not just a poor decision, it's a liability. We help you focus on what you love. And when we partner together, we become a profit center for your business. If we don't deliver a massive ROI on your investment in us, fire us. Want to see how it all works? Watch the video version on YouTube or head over to ProfitComesFirst.com to grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint book and start making profit a habit. You built this business to serve your mission and your freedom. Let's make sure it pays you back big. Kyle Mealy is back again. He is a Fractional Chief Revenue Officer. Again, that's all about driving revenue. And he helps entrepreneurs double their top line and even 10x their profit using what he calls the next level revenue formula. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Here's the truth. Most owners don't have a revenue problem. They have a math problem. Okay, I know. Math doesn't need to be hard. They don't know where their funnel is leaking. Some of them may not even know they have a funnel. The question is, what part of your marketing is profitable and what part's not? We're not going to actually talk about how to market. We're going to talk about how to measure marketing. The other thing we're going to talk about is EOS and scorecards and making sure that they are right on the number for you. And we'll talk about how AI is changing SEO. Kyle will also talk about his Revenue Cascade framework that can help you measure first and strategize second and scale with profit and confidence. And of course, we all do this without grinding. Let's welcome Kyle back and hear how he does it. Welcome back to the Profit Answer Man, Kyle Mealy. It's great to have you join us today.
I'm so glad to be back. It's good to see you, Rocky.
Good to see you too. Remind everyone a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. I realized I've gone on a revolutionary, and the REV is intentional, approach to marketing and sales. And I have a fractional firm of chief revenue officers that solve the marketing and sales equation in small businesses, doubling their top line and sometimes 10xing their profit.
People don't realize it's not hard to 10x your profit with a little bit of effort if you know what you're doing and you know what the math says, but you got to understand the math to be able to do that.
I couldn't agree more. Almost everything I do is math-based, and it comes not because I'm a marketer by trade or a sales guy by trade. I was just with an entrepreneur, and we had to figure out how to pay our people. The only way to pay our people is if we had profit. And so I actually started with profit and reversed my way all the way up to marketing, with revenue as the through line through it. Because I knew if I could control the revenue and if I could control the profit, everybody would be taken care of.
And that is correct. And just for those of you listening, we're not going to do any math today. So
No.
don't, it's okay. This is not difficult stuff. It's really basic math. So don't worry about it. Let's start with marketing, because I think there is a big shift afoot. AI has clearly, people can create content with AI, but really the bigger shift is the fact that when you Google search, if you even Google search anymore, that's a whole different conversation. The answer you get more often than not is Google's AI created content. If you use another search platform, it's Perplexity's AI. If you use ChatGPT. And so no longer are companies showing up in the Google unless you say, I need a plumber near me. And that's a different game to play. And so the game of marketing has dramatically shifted. What are you seeing?
Yeah, landscape has changed. When I started this business, it really was because I had seen that marketing and sales was no longer so distinct. Marketing got the leads, sales closed them, and sales was these door knockers pounding, on everybody's no longer real door, right? We all have virtual doors, or a lot of us do. And especially since AI, it's just accelerated this revolution. So it's no longer really an SEO move, it's a generative engine optimization, GEO. And the headline I let people know is if you're writing for SEO, you're probably now 5 to 10 years behind. The real place that the transactions are starting to happen is in thought leadership. It's being recognized in social and influencer marketing. And then you have to let go of some of those old paradigms or they will leave you behind.
The other thing that's kind of changing is the concept of trust, right?
Mhm.
Because in today's world, everyone thinks everything's fake, and I don't blame them because a lot of it is. And so you really have to build a real connection that people know that there's a real person behind that.
Yeah, I think, I call it the snow globe economy, and you can take that and run with that because I think it's cute. But the snow globe economy to me is there's these little worlds that exist in all these different, niches where there's this entire universe where you can build trust, you can build up being well known and respected, and you can talk specifically to their problems inside of this snow globe. And what's interesting is all the snow globes on a shelf, sometimes they don't even ever cross paths. So like I joke about it this way. Did you know there's a steel corset company in the Pacific Northwest that has 100,000 followers? No, you probably didn't. I've run into that business. It's a nice little healthy business, ultra niche, whole different universe. And they're the most well-known, trusted, and liked corset manufacturer in the US. That's a great business. And if we're not thinking about snow globe and getting really specific, it's going to be really hard to build trust.
You talked about a very niche product, right? But for a lot of us, we don't have a niche product. So how do we snow globe in a not so nichey world?
I think that, I'm going to give an arbitrary line, but it's experientially arbitrary. So I'll let you decide what that means. But there's this mark between that $2 million and $3 million company that goes to the $5 to $10 million company. It's when they get really focused on that snow globe. As entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneur, I kind of had to be a little bit of everything to everyone to get myself out of survival mode. But the maturation process is when you start to realize you do something extremely well, better than anybody else in the specific set of circumstances. And the more you can lean into that and get crystal clear there, you can, 10x your output or 10x your impact with the same amount of output into that snow globe.
So you do have to niche down.
I think you do. Or at least get really, really, really clear on what problem you do solve. It may not be industry niching. It just may be where exactly you interact with their problem and how you solve their problem. I think is also another way of niching.
We solve cash flow and profit problems by working less, which, everyone wants to grind it out. I'm not into that. We're here to chat about your book, The Next Level Revenue Formula, How Basic Math Can Yield Breakthrough Results for Your Small Business. And I love that because I think even what we do is basic math. And I think people try and overcomplicate business math. It's really not that difficult.
Yes.
So what prompted you to write this book?
Well, it really started with this thesis that I had watched the businesses I had been successful in doubling their top line and 10xing their profit. I did it 2 times in a row in 2 very, very different businesses. And I did it the exact same way. I did it where I could explain to you all the math that business needed to be profitable and grow on the back of a napkin. And I said, how do I teach someone else to do that? That was my whole idea is how do I teach someone else to do the same kind of problems that I've solved because I don't think it was that crazy. I don't think it was, that complex. It was actually about simplification. And if I couldn't write it in a book, then I couldn't, basically sell it.
And that makes sense. We'll talk about the basic math, but what I find the struggle is when it comes to the math, I find a lot of owners can't attribute sales to a particular marketing, social media, advertising campaign, postcard, or even a salesperson or where the lead came from. So it becomes hard to do the back of the napkin math.
Oh, I could. So the one-to-one, what I would call linear attribution is the fancy word for that. But basically, I did an event and I generated this many dollars is the flaw. That's the trap. That's what you've got to take yourself out of to get to the next level, because it gets so complicated, and that's work. Complicated means work. Rocky, you and I don't want to grind. We want it simple, clear, and easy. So the one-to-one linear attribution has got to go out the window. I think about making it 7 times 7 ways I've got to say something, and I'm not going to worry if that salesperson doesn't have that one conversation. I'm going to play the math game. I'm going to play the big numbers game.
So what is that big numbers game? Help us understand.
Sure. I call it Revenue Cascade is kind of the simplest version of this. And I've been teaching it this way lately, and it's helped people really understand it. But it's going to kind of sound like sales, but just when you think about it the way I think about it, that marketing is sales, sales is marketing. It's like Reese's peanut butter cups. It's chocolate and peanut butter together forever, never to be confused. If you get in front of 100 people, just for a second, imagine you could go stand in front of 100 people. Maybe that's through an advertisement, maybe that's through a mailer, or maybe it's 10 through a mailer, 10 through an advertisement, 10 through an event, whatever. 50%, they're going to ignore you. 50% of those might actually talk to you. 50% of those might actually hear your pitch. 50% of those might give you some information. 50% of those might show up to your front door. 50% of those might do some sort of introductory offer or download a lead magnet, so on and so forth. And so what I realized is there was this really simple mathematical formula that I could almost attribute to any business I worked on. If I talked or got in front of enough people would go to my website, enough people would fill out a form or call me, they'd show up to my door or show up in my discovery calls, and I would present to them and they would close. And when I just measured the mass of those, it just became very obvious. The math just kind of kept working out. About 10% here, 25% here, and I just followed the conversion rate all the way down what I call the cascade.
I'm listening to the 50, a 50, a 50, a 50, and I'm realizing, okay, if I get 100 people into the funnel, in reality, I might only get 3 or 4 or 5, one come out of the funnel.
Yep, 1.5 is if you do the 50, 50, 50 at the kind of the classic, you get 1.5.
And so I think people need to realize that we need to have 100 exposures to end up, that's 1.5 sales, right?
Yep, about. That's kind of the math.
About, right. And every business is different.
Every business is different. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's that what I realized is if that pattern showed up in every business, you just have to plug in kind of what you do at those interaction points. That was the big unlock for me, is like, it doesn't matter. You just have to know what your interaction points are. And if you can measure those, now you can start to do math predictably. You can find where you're leaky.
And to me, leaky means that you get to a decision point, and instead of 50-50, it might be 10%, which tells me you've done a bad job at that decision point
100%.
Of capturing the half.
100%. And that's as simple as it gets. Now, again, every business might be different. You might be at 80% at one juncture, or it might be 10%. And now you can kind of know why I call it Chief Revenue Officer or CRO, because we are obsessed with conversion rate optimization, CRO as well, between all those different steps and stages and interactions. Because if you obsess about those, your efficiency goes up. And what do we love? Efficiency.
So to make efficiency simple, that's what I call work less, make more. So talk to me. What is a Chief Revenue Officer?
Yeah, it is. So here's what it's not. Because I knew what I was stepping into when I started this company, because Chief Revenue Officer usually has all these fancy acronyms, go-to-market strategy, GTM, your CAC, your LTV, and all this crap. Enough. We're not doing go-to-market motions or apparatus. That's not what my team does. We are much more entrepreneurial. We run your marketing and your sales as one department because let's be honest, you can't afford a CMO and a CSO in the under $15 million marketplace. You need one person who's going to make sure that the revenue that comes in is profitable. That's our job. Our mandate is very simple. Go get new positive revenue, positive profit money.
You said something important. The revenue must be profitable.
100%.
And you and I are very aligned on this, but I find a lot of times people have no idea if their revenue is actually profitable when they look at all the costs kind of going on, because they talk to a marketing person and a marketing person says, hey, if you put $10 in my marketing machine, you'll get $20 back. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't afford to sell something and pay you 50% in marketing and still make money. And most people never do that math. And the marketing people don't even know that math exists.
I swear to you, an agency pitched one of my clients. I swear to you, they said, it's okay. We'll get you a return on ad spend. And I told them, hey, just so you know, the product margin is 50%. So if you spend the other 50%, we don't make any money and that won't work. They promised, they were so proud of this promise, they actually put all this math into a spreadsheet. I have the spreadsheet. I saved it because I couldn't believe somebody put this into writing, that after 3 months, they would lose us, I think it was like $3,200. And they're like, are you ready to sign? I'm like, wait, what? You're gonna ensure we lose $3,200 over the next 3 months and we're gonna that's your best pitch? They wrote this down, they sent this.
But did they not understand that they were going to lose?
They clearly did not understand that was a loss. They clearly couldn't understand it. That was when I was like, oh, I'm really onto something here, because they were thinking they did a great job. They said their ROAS, return on ad spend, I think was going to be a 3. And I'm like, then we don't break even because our product costs 50% and your cost and the advertising cost puts us underwater.
This is why timeshare salespeople do well, because they don't understand math either. And I think that's the problem. If you don't understand how these numbers go together, then you're going to run into this. And I'll be honest, you had a 50% product cost. Was that gross profit 50%, or was that including all the overhead and everything?
I didn't even include overhead, and it was still that bad. I know. Oh, and I know it's not even worth even a conversation. I know. Rocky, I know.
Okay, so a lot of companies have 50% gross profit, but by the time you get to net profit, you might be I think on average, if you looked at the entire United States, it's probably around 10%. A good company is closer to 20. You get much more than 20, competitors are showing up.
Oh, yeah.
To steal margin because they know that. So 10% with what you're talking about, that $3,200 was even probably worse. much worse. Yeah.
And so I was training someone up over there and he thought it was a good deal. And I'm like, look at the math. Just tell me, would you do this if it was your money? And all of a sudden he's like, well, no. And so I think our CROs, we don't come in with like a $25,000 budget expectation for our client. We're coming in looking at the efficiency going, what isn't bolted down that we can possibly take off that is not driving towards profitable revenue? Like we come at it, like one of our values is around, it's our money. We treat it like it's our money, our business. And if I wouldn't write the check, then I wouldn't ask our clients to.
And I'm with you on that. I feel the same way. And we actually help our clients do all of this math.
I love it.
To be
I've
able
seen
to
some of the stuff you put together. It's exactly. Yeah.
And you and I say the same thing in slightly different ways. I think your stuff is much better on the front end, meaning the marketing side. My stuff is a little bit different on the back end, looking at the cash flow side. But, whatever system they want to use, I'm okay with, as long as you make money at the end of the day, because that's the key.
I think it's an and. Like one of my clients that is having some of the most success at Next Level has one of the best financial people I've ever come across. She and I put our heads together. Yeah, we should find a way to cross, but separate issue. But no, she She is brilliant. She and I can go into a room. I switched one of their models for one of their main products, the way we were going to sell it and market it. And she and I put ourselves into a room with the Revenue Cascade, and then we're able to model out the budget. And she was able to give me a break even. And when she can give me a real, true break even with all the overhead, now I can set really healthy targets in our marketing and sales rooms. Like, that's the best part. Now I can also have the conversation about a healthy commission plan. Now I can also have a healthy conversation about scale. And so she and I are this dynamic duo in there, and it is so much fun to have someone who can think about what you called the back end of it, because then I can focus on the front end.
And I agree with you, because part of it is, and a lot of business owners are like, what kind of a commission plan do I create for my salespeople? And I find in the same way, they forget to do the math. And so they'll give me a commission plan. I'll do the math. I go, hey, let's say your rep blows it out. Are you okay writing them a six-figure check? And sometimes they freak out and they're like, oh my God.
That's
I'm like, no, time out. Understand something. Let me show you the math. The math says, even though you wrote them a six-figure check, you're going to get six-figure with a bigger number in front of it. So don't feel so bad. Or in your particular case, your math says you're going to lose money. So we can't offer that commission plan. So, and it varies by company, but you have to put all those numbers together and figure it out.
I could, yeah. And I think people make it too complex or too emotion based. And it's because we care, right? Like, most of the commission plans I have to untangle is because there's two flaws in their thinking. One, that money is the root motivation. I just don't think that's, your best salesperson is rarely money motivated. They make a lot of money, they like money, but they're rarely truly money motivated. And I think the second flaw I often see is they're trying to take care of this person and not put the business first.
I don't think they're trying to do that. I think they just don't know the numbers. And so they're going blind and saying, I need to take care of this person. Yes, this is what I need to do, not realizing, oh, I just put myself in major trouble.
That's way better.
But let's take a step back. If money is not the root, then what is their driver?
I think money probably is in the top three, let's be clear, right? Because I think there's a confidence element of this, right? And there's a confidence degree of like, I believe in what I'm selling. I believe it actually solves a problem, and I want to solve problems. So it's, to me, the number one motivation is those problem solvers, real problem solvers.
Okay. I was at a local marketing event. They were doing an all-day conference. At lunch, I'm sitting at the table. And so I'm with the marketing people. And the one marketing guy pretty much said, I really don't understand what we do for clients. And the other lady from a different company said, yeah, I don't either understand what we deliver in value for our clients, like what we actually sell. And I sat there and I went, I'm not coming back to this marketing conference ever again. I'm in the wrong room.
Oh my gosh. Oh my, yeah.
These were not little companies. These were one of these companies is beyond multi-millions, like really big. The other one was a decent size, 7 or 8 figure company. I don't know their exact revenue.
Yeah.
But it just blew my mind. And that's their internal marketing people. If they don't know, God help you if you bring somebody in from outside.
Yeah, that's what makes me very nervous. And it's what drove me to build this business, because I do know how little people understand about marketing and sales. And the best I've ever come to is, because I tried to learn this for myself, but best I've ever come to is you have to do marketing. That's all I ever heard. Well, we have to do marketing. And then it was always the strategy. It was always like, we're going to do this strategy. And nobody's going to measure if this strategy worked. We were just going to hope it worked. And I'm like, hope isn't a strategy. So that was one of my big discoveries, was that if you put data in front, right, and you look at where the weaknesses are in your funnel and your pipeline, then you can pick a strategy and measure if it worked. I mean, I actually started my career in the lab field, and that's what we did. We looked at our treatment plan, and if it wasn't working, we had a hypothesis of where it was breaking down, and we deployed, chemicals or treatment elements to see if it made a difference. Period. It was never well, the water over here is dirty and the water over there is clean. No idea how it happens. We're just going to do more. No, you got to isolate. You got to isolate and then assess, then strategize, deploy, and measure. But if you aren't measuring in the first place, you have no business deploying. And I think that's where most business owners go wrong, is they think they need marketing and they think they know best, and they think they need a salesperson. They just go.
Well, and that's what they hire a salesperson and say, go out and sell. And they're like, well, what are we selling? This cup. Okay, you're selling a cup, like, but why? Like, what are they really buying? Whatever that cup represents, whatever your product is, they don't really understand it. And because you don't have a training program, or you're unclear on your values or how you do things, it doesn't work so well. And then, of course, the salesperson's not doing so well. So then we go, oh, we need to get Facebook ads. Go buy some Facebook ads.
Right. Yeah, I call those salespeople that get hired in that kind of first one, the go get 'em tigers, the Tony the Tigers, because we give them a laptop, say go get them, and we're excited about them at first because they're great, right? And they're full of energy. And then 3 months later, we let them go because they sucked. And it's like, never did we do the analysis of maybe we don't know what we're selling or what we're good at or why somebody would buy it or how we're going to educate our prospects. And it kind of touches on the AI concept. There's so much information out there that most of your buyers are actually way more educated than they've ever been. And so if you you don't have a sales team that can navigate an educated buyer, you're going to lose all the trust in a second, because it's like AI knows your crap better than you do. So that's why it's so hard for these founders to leave the sales and marketing seat, is because they've been able to do all this in their head. They're usually the subject matter expert. They were the practitioner first, and they've never thought that somebody else, they've tried to clone themselves or just get sales, and they don't understand that process.
Nope, I'm with you. So you have another term. It's called ROAS. I think you've trademarked it or something, haven't you?
Yes, we actually just got the registration on it. It's ROAS, ROASS. It is a cheeky play on ROAS. ROAS is the classic marketing return on advertising spend, which is, as we've kind of talked about, kind of a made up, stupid metric because it doesn't actually measure profit. We have ROAS, and I was at the EOS conference and someone came up to me and saw it on one of my marketing things, and he was like, you know what that looks like, right? He's like, ROASS, and you trademarked that? And I was like, yeah, you'll never forget it. I know exactly what I did with that. What is ROAS? ROAS is back of the napkin ROI, but not just ROI of marketing and sales. It gives you some indication of profitability. And I won't take all the thunder from my finance friends like my friend Rocky here. But what ROAS does is it basically creates two buckets. You put all your revenue on the top and all of your marketing and sales budget underneath, and it's just a simple division. So let's say you have $1 million company and you spend $200,000 on marketing and sales. Your ROAS is 5. Now, for those of you who are a little bit math geeky, you can invert that, and it's now that 20% of your marketing budget or 20% of your money is going towards marketing and sales. If your OPEX is 80%, your operational expenses, your admin, everything is 80%, you have no profit.
Actually, you do. You know why?
Why?
You forgot about profit.
So help me out. Let's walk this through. So I'm going to tell you we have 20% is marketing and sales. That's what I know.
Right.
Okay, then there's all these other expenses that you guys worry about. If you're over 80%, though, you have no profit left over. So what goes in that?
Correct. But if you're at 20 and 80, you're at 100, you still have no profit. You worked really hard for no money.
Exactly.
So the rest of that should hopefully be like 60.
Yes.
So you have 20, 60 to not only create the product or service and then deliver it and run your company. Now you're at 80. Now you have a 20% profit margin. Now we're making money and we can go on vacation and have some time freedom.
That's where this math becomes really simple. If you don't know that, do you spend 60% to do it or 80% to do it? If you have no clue on that, it's going to be really hard to be profitable and make any money on revenue. And so what I often come in is I find out that they have no idea about really any of those numbers. So they're just guessing. And it's when those people get that clarity of like, okay, of the $1 million, 600,000 is going to be to make it, to build it, to do all the things. 200,000 is going to be to market and sell it. 200,000 is for this business, for the owner. If you can get to that level, you start making money. That's simple math.
It is. I'll put ROAS with assume because, they're both in the same place.
That's exactly right. Just like it's also like an opinion. Everybody has one if it's working or not.
It's true. What are some of the biggest mistakes you notice people make in this particular space?
It always comes back to not knowing your numbers, right? It's the strategy first. I had someone, and it's like kind of holding on to these ancient ideas that marketing is marketing, sales is sales, and you need this new fancy strategy, right? Like GEO. Sound like people are going to be hooked on this podcast because they talked a little bit about GEO versus SEO. But if you do not have a product that people are looking for like that, stop even thinking about that strategy. So I think the biggest mistake is not knowing your numbers. So we have one client who had just never had no numbers. I mean, you want to talk about a company that had no idea where money was coming from. This was it. What was funny is they had one of the best finance groups I've ever seen. So they knew exactly how barely break even they were every month, but they had no marketing and sales acumen or data at all. And they kept trying different strategies over and over again. Okay, we're going to switch to this model. We're going to switch to that model. We're going to do this ad. We're going to do trade shows. We're going to do this. And it was just a nightmare of guessing. And they always ended up at the same spot. No idea if they were going to hit their budget and no idea if they were going to make any money. So the biggest mistake I always see is strategy before data. That's always the biggest one. Like, when should you hire a salesperson? That should be a data decision, not a strategy decision.
I can see that. Part of it, though, is if you don't have the strategy for the salesperson, don't hire the salesperson.
But tell you the point where you cannot take on more, like whoever your other salesperson is, or if you don't have a salesperson, if you're time imbalance, right? Because the CEO should have a time value associated with their effort. You should be able to make an efficiency move. Oh, if I can free up 12 hours of the CEO, that starts to generate positive ROI. That's a data decision. Okay, well, do you have a process? Do you have a measurable, do you know what to hold them to on a standard of sales? Do you have enough leads to consistently hand them? All of those things are data points.
And they are. And I am a big believer in work a little hard and then relieve the pressure. Yes. Don't build it and they will come.
Correct.
Because I find very often do people build it and they come.
Right.
That's more of a hope strategy. And it usually causes you to burn through a lot of cash that you can never get back.
Right. Yep. I would much rather be a little underwater, just a little bit underwater, than sitting there on dry land going, when's it going to rain?
Yes. And that's the thing. And every business is a little different.
For sure.
And if you understand how your cash flows and whether the cash comes early or late can help you make those decisions. Again, it's a data point. Yeah. I also know you're a big fan of EOS. I'm a big fan of EOS. One of the things that's really become mind-blowing for me lately is all the people in EOS have scorecards that they look at weekly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding that their scorecards don't add up to their profit and loss and to their success.
Nope.
I don't know if you've ever noticed that or if it's just me noticing that, but the math has to tie across the entire company, not only in your part, but everywhere through the system.
Yeah, there are. I'm a huge fan of EOS, run on EOS, love it. And Scorecard is, obviously where we can have a lot of the biggest impact, because if you build, what I teach in the Revenue Cascade correctly, you can really get predictive at the very extreme outermost level of the funnel. Because like I said, it's a simple math equation to when things come to the bottom line and actually turn into money. If you build your scorecard correctly, you can know problems at the start of your sales cycle. So let's say your sales cycle is 60 days. You can know, 8 weeks in advance of when you're going to have an issue. Talk about cash flow protection. Talk about preparation. Talk about strategy deployment. So yes, I think a lot of people, and here's a real example of this. A lot of people put website visitors as one of their key metrics in their scorecard. And then they put leads as another one. Okay. We should have more website visitors, more leads. How many people have incongruency between when the website visits go up and the leads go up? If those two numbers are not correlated, they are a waste of your time. That's exactly why I built Revenue Cascade, is because website visits rarely indicate lead generation. There are other numbers in there. And that's when, I think of our CROs as more as detectives. Like, their job is to go hunting for that data so that you can use your scorecard to your advantage. And finally, if your leads are not enough and your close rate is not understood, you're going to have a cash flow issue. And that's what I think you're talking about, is like, you can't assume those leads will come in. You have to be able to measure everything along the way so that you're not surprised when you're behind on budget.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories of a breakdown just in the technology. So they have a website, they're measuring lead flow, the email system breaks down. And so the emails aren't showing up, and none of the sales reps are getting emails, and they don't say a word because they're having fun, and nobody's measuring the in between. And then 2 months later, they're like, where are the sales? It's like, the system broke.
We didn't get any
Yeah.
leads. Yeah, I walked in to a company that had two websites, or we walked into a company that had two websites and no integration between the email and the contact us. So there were leads sitting in the website that nobody could touch, nobody knew. It was like, oh my, they had two websites, same company. So the website visitors was a meaningless metric.
Well, and that was the other question. What % of your sales come from website visitors versus another channel? In today's world, I think people have multiple channels. And so you have to look at all the channels and say which channels actually matter. What we're coaching people on now is social media isn't so much lead gen as it is authority proof for a lot of companies. Certain companies, lead gen still works with social media, but for a lot of companies, that's not going to be their first exposure to you. They're going to meet you through some other thing. The social media is now proof that you're real, not your lead gen. So you have to market differently and create content differently.
Measure the buyer journey, not the channel. And so what I mean by that is, you're right. I think social media is part of awareness, for sure. Your website is not. Nobody goes to www.readyforthenextlevel.com the first time they hear about my business. Nobody's remembering that URL. Nobody's going to that URL. Let's all be clear. That is not a measure of awareness. That is a measure of interest. Somebody goes direct to my website, they heard about me from somewhere. And so I just treat this as buckets. Like, what's in the awareness bucket? What's in the interest bucket? What's in the decision bucket? And I can measure discreetly all those intersections where I think my buyer is going. So my buyer is going to, we measure events as awareness. So if I go to an event with 50 people, I'm putting 50 into my awareness bucket because I have 50 exposures. Now, what should happen is, theoretically, more people should get interested because more people were aware. Well, where would you go? Where would I go? Well, I measure not my direct website visits. I measure people who look at my service page for CROs. That's interest. You're on /Chief Revenue Officer. You have interest in my business. You are trying to consider to buy me. That's interest. Do you download my lead magnet? Okay, you must have, some decision happened. And so I just measure these buckets.
So I usually have on the last slide a QR code, and I know it's tied to that event, so I can see how many people actually wanted to learn more and went to the QR code and got my free book from there.
Well, here's a good example from an event. I'll go quick on this story. I know we talked a lot, but so I went to an event, put them in my awareness, put them in my interest. I got some leads, like people, we traded business cards. We're going to talk. Didn't get any closed business after 60 days. Was the event a bust?
No.
I say no. I got opportunities. I wanted at-bats. Well, somebody I did not talk to at that event, didn't even talk to, heard me talk, heard me kind of do my thing, kind of watch my booth, went and talked to their EOS implementer about us, who vouched for us as a good company, all of a sudden hit my inbox And then now they're the client. The person I didn't talk to is now the client. From that event, they showed up in my funnel 4, 5, 6 months later when they needed to. This event's a home run for me. But if I tried to measure that attribution from that event in the 3 to 6 month world, I would have thought it was a loss, technically in the old school way of thinking. It's not how I think. I knew I put enough awareness and interest and decision into my buckets that I knew the math that I was going to get a client.
I got a client from the last EOS conference that I didn't meet at the EOS conference.
I rest my case. I rest my case. I absolutely rest my case. There would be people who saw, oh yeah, I saw you speak. A year later, will all of a sudden reach out. Is that
I didn't even speak.
I know. You just were hanging out. Totally.
I was just hanging out. Clients still find me.
Yes.
These things happen.
Well, because you're active.
There are
if
a couple more.
You're outside. You go talk to people. That's all awareness and interest generation. It's all trust building.
It does. And the key is putting it all together, right, measuring it, having systems in place to know. And I really like this because my biggest fear, I'm a high D, high C. So not only can I make decisions, but I also like to be cautious. I always want to know what's going to happen in 2 months. You know, what does that lead flow look like? What is the beginning of it? And how is that going? Because if that goes south, then I know 60, 90 days later, something else is going to go south. And I can also measure where the funnel is broken. In other words, let's say you got 3 sales reps, sales go down. So we go yell at 3 sales reps. No, we go look and go, oh, 2 sales reps are cranking it. 1 isn't. Now we know who to talk to and figure out what is the problem with that, or something else broke. The email system broke, or this broke, or it happens all the time.
It's always measure first, strategy second. And most people want strategy first.
If people would like to learn more about you, connect with you, how do we do all of that Thunderstill stuff?
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time in and around the community around EOS. So you can obviously find me on LinkedIn. But if you've heard of Energy, the Entrepreneurial Networking Resource Group, that is my other business. It is my nonprofit side. I spend a lot of time helping entrepreneurs solve problems there. We call it the where to find the who's and how's. So that's another place to find me.
Cool. And we'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rocky. I appreciate you.
Let's face it, profit isn't about chasing more tactics. It's about doing the simple math that shows you where your revenue is leaking and how to fix it. When you align your revenue cascade, when you calculate what your cost of sales and marketing is, when you build your scorecards and tie them to your success, you can stop guessing and start scaling with confidence and know when the cash is coming. If you want to pressure test your own numbers and see how all of that comes together, reach out, get on my calendar, let's chat. We'll figure it out for you. But here's the bottom line. You don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful and make sure you focus on the bottom line. Thanks for listening to The Profit Answer Man, where we believe more revenue doesn't mean more profit, and the bottom line is what really matters. If you're ready to stop living, check to check, take control of your cash flow, and finally get paid what you're worth, we should talk. We work with 7- and 8-figure businesses and well-funded startups. If you're a smaller business, check out the Profit Blueprint program. It's a do-it-yourself solution that also can come with my direct guidance in the same level we give our one-on-one clients. When you're ready for results, book a discovery call. There's a link in the show notes or at profitcomesfirst.com. You'll be speaking and working directly with me. In the meantime, grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint at profitcomesfirst.com. It's the next step to turning your business into a consistent cash flow generating machine. If you'd like to dig more into leading yourself, your company, and building the ultimate life, listen to my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we cover these topics in great depth. There's a link in the show notes. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.